Well, good morning and welcome. This is our program that we do every other week called Ask Mason. During this program, we take questions and try to be very, very transparent on what's going on around the city, try to explain some of the things that sometimes I think our general viewing audience doesn't always understand why we do the things that we do. Anytime you have questions, you can send those in to askmason@enid.org, and I will do my best to answer those. If I don't know the answer, I assure you we've got staff that does know that, and that's kind of what I've done today. Several of the questions that had come in was about code enforcement and some yards that have grown up, and I thought it just might be a good idea to bring in our code enforcement officers today, or two of them. I've got Scott Garnand. Scott is our head code enforcement officer, and I also have our assistant code enforcement officer, Tiffany Tingler.
Yes.
Did I say all that right?
Yep.
All right, good. Man, I appreciate you guys being here today. I know I threw it on you kind of at the last minute, but I just think that with spring being here, I start getting phone calls. You know, why is so-and-so not mowing their yard? Or y'all come out and talk to them. And unfortunately, that's kind of part of your job, isn't it?
Right.
To go out there and have
Right.
those conversations.
Yep.
And Scott, why don't you start off? First of all, how long have you been in Enid?
Been in Enid 2 years now, just a little over 2 years. Came up from the Northwest Oklahoma City area. Had a job opening here. I put in for it, and I'm glad to land here. My family has just loved Enid since we got here.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
So here we are.
Yeah. Well, tell me, how many calls do y'all get on like yards and stuff grown up, or people pulling vehicles in their front yard, abandoned?
On a weekly, if we get 150 calls, that's low.
Per week?
Per week. That's where I would about put it.
Really?
Usually during the summer, it probably ramps up to about 200, 275 per week of complaints to go check out.
Really? Really?
Yep.
And those are just people that are not taking care of their property,
Correct.
basically, right?
Correct.
Why is that important that they do that? Because we really don't want to
Yeah.
be the police in that, do we?
No,
I mean,
I've never been the pretty police, and I never will be the pretty police.
I like that, yeah.
So, when it comes to high grass and weeds, that's a great place to start. When your grass gets too high, of course, you're starting to get rodents, you're starting to get snakes, you're starting to get insects, which carry diseases, which get passed along to the community. So our part is to make sure that that's kept low to prevent the diseases from spreading. So that's one of the main reasons we're after everybody to keep their grass low. Now, sometimes it does take a while to get to it, but I assure you we are working the case, most likely. But we always accept phone calls. I never mind hearing a complaint about a yard. We'll always go check it out and make sure if it's violation level, we'll post it, we'll send a notice, and then if it's not taken care of after 10 days, is that correct?
Yep.
After 10 days, we send contractors to take care of it. Now, sometimes you have the people that they just got out of hospital, they've had family issues, they're just not able to get it.
So what do we do in those cases?
In those cases, we do have a couple of organizations that can help to get it knocked down. We also allow for more time. If you come to me and say, "Hey Scott, listen, I've just had a real rough time. I can't get my yard mowed. Can I get an extra 5 days?" No problem. Get it done in 5 days, and we'll call it good. At that point, we're not sending contractors because we don't want to send contractors because that's an extra $110, $120.
And explain to them, Scott, that while the city pays for that up front, eventually that property owner is going to pay for it.
Correct.
Right? Explain how that works.
So it goes as a lien on the house. So if it's not paid within 30 days through the city, it goes on a lien towards the taxes on the property. If it's not paid within 4 years, that property goes up to sell in the sheriff's auction. So that's one of the important things about taking care of your yard, where, we'll pay the initial up cost, but eventually you have to pay for these.
And that's important, especially on properties that are kind of abandoned, right? Because mom passes away, kids inherit this house, they live in another state, and the next thing you know, mom's house is coming up 4 years later for a sheriff's auction, at a sheriff's auction, right? And that's not the direction we want to go at all.
No.
We just need the property taken care of. It's also important to those other people that are taking care of their property. And have children that play out in the yard. They don't want to live next to a property that has abandoned vehicles. I've seen that. I've had phone calls on those as well. People pull a vehicle up there, think they're going to work on it, and 4 years later they're still thinking they're going to work on it. So what would be the message there? Maybe to just be considerate of your neighbors?
Yeah, always be considerate of your neighbors. The best neighbor is one that you don't even have to talk to most of the time. The second next neighbor is that just takes care of themselves and just keeps on with their own stuff. But yes, please take care of your property so your neighbors doesn't have to worry about it, and the community around you doesn't have to consider it a hazard and call us and say, hey, please take care of this, because they're not.
And it does affect the city. If you take it one step farther, every time we recruit a business about coming to Enid, or recruit a new doctor or somebody that's thinking about bringing his family to Enid, they always drive around town.
Right.
Always. And if they drive around some of these neighborhoods and they see some of this, I know, I've heard it before where we get pushback. Why are y'all allowing that? Well, we have a process to go through.
Correct.
And so that's why we kind of stay on top of that, and appreciate y'all doing that. Tiffany, brought you on for a specific project that the City Commission had put you on, and I will say you have knocked it out of the park.
Thank you.
We had some concerns about some of our entrances and our main thoroughfares through town, how that looked to the general public whenever they'd come to Enid for the first time. And while we were keeping those mowed, there's a difference in keeping it mowed versus keeping it well manicured or maintained.
Yes.
And we appropriated, I think it was $100,000 for you to, if you needed to go out and hire some contractors to specifically work on some roads around town, right?
Yes.
That were high visibility.
Yep.
And so where I kind of got to know you was you'd come to our city commission meetings and you'd show before and after photos. And I was amazed how much better that looked. Can you talk to that just a little bit? And
Yeah, what it is it's just taking special care of, or paying that extra little attention to certain areas, especially the corridors. The places where people are even just driving through town, or are gonna come in, and you can see certain areas, and so it's more like edging and things like that. The little pieces, like sometimes people forget to mow or weed eat around a small area. We pay attention to that, and go ahead and go that extra step rather than just mowing your property.
I was noticing, what I was really impressed with were the sidewalks.
Yes.
Because grass had grown up through some of those sidewalks, and man, that was all cleaned up. It was a good presentation, and I always remember we only get a chance to make a first impression. And man, you've really helped with that. But that property, like those sidewalks that are out in front of businesses and the homes, those actually belong to the homeowner, don't they?
Correct.
So even though the city stepped in and tried to take care of some of that, we would really like the homeowner to step up and take care of their own property.
We generally let them out. Like, I will go and send contractors to have them do that. And then after that, we do send notice and say, hey, we would like for you to keep it this way. Whether they do or not is a whole different, but we send letters and say, hey, this is part of the beautification. Please keep this. You are a business on this side or on this property, and it needs to stay, sorry.
No, it affects.
Yeah, it does.
It affects all of us when they allow their property to get grown up or not
Correct.
maintained. And I think one of my points here today is I just want our general public to know, take ownership take pride in what you have.
Absolutely.
Take pride in our city. I mean, that's what you
Right.
guys are trying to.
Exactly.
I hate sometimes that we have to enforce that.
Yes, you and I both.
Yeah, exactly. One other thing I want to mention about that project, I think we appropriated $100,000, and when you've been around any kind of large organization or municipality, you can go through $100,000 pretty quick. That may be the best use of funds I've ever seen in my life, because we get an update of how much of that you've spent, and I was so surprised how slowly you have gone through that money versus how much you've gotten accomplished.
A lot of it's the contractors. When we use the contractors we use, most of them have been with us for years,
Yeah.
doing the lawns and stuff, and so they really know how this is done and have done a great job. So, and
Yeah.
they're the ones I send out bids. They turn in the numbers, and they've really helped out a lot.
You've
so.
heard the phrase before, no good deed goes unpunished. So I get tickled every time Tiffany comes to one of the commission meetings. We see all those pictures. I think we add another street to that. So, we'll eventually get it so it's more than you can take care of. But man, you're doing a great job.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and it shows.
Good.
It really does.
I hope so.
Scott, I want to back up to
Yep.
two more things. We just passed a new code, did we not? Tell me about that and why we did that.
So we are still researching it. We
Okay.
haven't actually passed it. We haven't adopted it yet. There's a couple things I'm still going through to get there. So the state adopted the 2020 NEC, the National Electrical Code, adopted that September of 22. And they also adopted the 2018 IRC, the International Residential Code, on the same time. So those are just updating codes to be, there's some things that are removed because they weren't needed. Some things are added because we feel that this is a safety issue. And so we're just kind of going through that process right now to get in line with our state statutes.
Okay. And it's my understanding also that we have to follow the state statute.
Correct.
Right? So,
Correct.
It's really not an option to us. We can have a code that is more stringent,
Correct.
but not less
Correct.
stringent, right? And we do that for a reason, though. And I'm a big property rights person. I think, when you own your property. But when we come out, we inspect. Let's say you have a new hot water tank put in, and we come out, we inspect that. Why do we do that?
One of the biggest things about hot water tanks is not only do you have the water that's getting heated, you've got exhaust from it, you've got gas going to it, and we all know that if gas gets built up, especially in one of these closets, you have an ignition source, you create an explosion. I've seen reports in some communities where the house is completely gone because the hot water tank had a gas leak and exploded. And that's one of the reasons that, I do enjoy what I do on that aspect, because I want to make sure people are safe. I don't want to hear about any big explosions in my community. I don't want to hear about, structures unsafe. I want to make sure that we're making a safe place for people to live, grow, and,
Also, they may not own that house forever.
Correct.
Might be another property owner come in there later on.
Right.
And they need to know that property's safe and has been inspected. So,
right.
So I guess after you go through that code a little more, that'll come before our commission, and we'll adopt that and move forward.
Yep.
One other thing I wanted to mention before we finish up is, I know this has been on everybody's mind for a long, long time. You know where I'm going with this.
I do.
Is the old abandoned pot farm.
Yes.
Whenever you come in on 412 out
Yep.
on the east side of town.
Yep. One of the first things you see.
Yes. Nothing screams welcome to Enid like a dilapidated pot farm.
Exactly.
And why has that taken such a long time to, let me back up. We Tell them where we're at on it now, and then explain why it's taking so long.
So right now, we are at the point, in 10 days, we will be sending out, contractors. We're getting those contracts right now. We'll be sending out contractors to basically make it back to agriculture land, which is what it's zoned and what it's supposed to be used for. Unless there's an appeal or something like that, we will be moving forward.
Who would that appeal come to?
The council.
Right. And you've been working on that a long time. This isn't just
2 years.
You didn't wake up one morning, right?
No.
I mean, there's a procedure we have to go through. We purposely don't try to. We don't want those projects to have to do, right?
No.
But you've been working on it. You said for 2 years, and I know that. Effective, I think, is the 21st of this month. Right. If that has not been cleaned up, then we're going to, and we'll use the same procedure where we'll put a lien on that property, which means there will not be a clean title on that, and it cannot be sold to that lien's cleared off of it, right?
Yep, until those taxes are paid.
Correct.
So, thank you for doing that. That's I know that's been a struggle
to
get
done. That has been a team effort, entire staff-wise.
Yes. And I never try to speak for the entire council, but I think we will all be glad when that thing's cleaned up. It just looks better coming into Enid if that's gone.
Correct.
So I'd rather have cows out there instead of what we have right now.
Agreed.
So, well, guys, thank y'all so much for being on. I hope that's informative to the general public. It always is me. I learn something every time I talk to you guys, and we appreciate what you do. I know that's very difficult sometimes for several reasons, but thank you for what you do. Thanks for keeping us safe, and thanks for keeping our properties, enforcing that, making sure our properties look like they should. We all want to be proud of our community. So thank you.
Thank you.
And come back again, will you?
Anytime.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.